Today I'm going to be talking to you about nutrient cycles, and once again a fundamental element of the living world, a GCSE topic. Now, when it comes to nutrient cycles, they will often look very similar to ecosystems, but what they are is a little bit more of an in-depth look at how those ecosystems process the fundamental elements through from the plants to the animals to the atmosphere and to the soil. So when it comes to nutrient cycles, there are three main nutrients that cycle through the system. Now, water is one of the more obvious ones, where it drains away, it evaporates, it comes back as rainfall and cycles through the system this way. I'm not going to discuss that in too much detail, but if you'd like more details on the water cycle, then please contact your teacher and they'll send you some resources. More interesting to us at the moment is how nitrogen and carbon is cycled through the ecosystem. So carbon is the fundamental base of all life on this planet. All organic matter contains the element carbon, and it's produced when we breathe out. Another essential element is nitrogen, and nitrogen makes up the majority of the air that we breathe. Now, nitrogen is fundamental to plant growth, but when it's hovering around in the atmosphere like this, it's no use to the plants. They can't take it up, they can't absorb it through their leaves. So what happens is we have bacteria in the soil that will fix it and process it into a form that the trees can absorb. Now, when we talk about nutrients, we need to also think about how they are stored. And there's three main ways in which they are stored. They are stored as biomass. And this is your biotic factor. So any biotic factor is a biomass store. It's a store of carbon that is currently living and alive. Once the natural lifespan has ended, it then becomes what we refer to as litter. And this is dead animal carcasses, it's dead leaves, dead branches, any dead organic matter. The other store that we find is our soil. And our soil is one of the fundamental elements of an ecosystem. And without it, the whole ecosystem would completely collapse. So back to that nitrogen. So what happens is the bacteria in the soil, they'll help break down that leaf litter and fix that nitrogen from the atmosphere and turn it into nutrients that our roots can absorb. And then, as per what you've learned about ecosystems, those nutrients are cycled up into the plants, consumed by the primary consumer, secondary consumer, and if it's a long food chain, even a tertiary consumer. Then they become the litter, and then they get processed back into the soil by the decomposers. Now, this is what happens to nitrogen, and carbon is also produced by the tree as a waste product. Carbon is also taken in and oxygen produced. So carbon can be fixed from the atmosphere by the respiration of the trees and by photosynthesis. However, nitrogen has to be transformed before it can be taken in by the trees. So therefore, that's the role of the bacteria in sorting out the nitrogen in the air so that the tree can take it up as part of its roots. A little bit like if you were to have a Berocca tablet in some water. You can't just take it solid, you'd have to dissolve it in some water first before you drink it. So that's kind of the role that the bacteria is playing here. So the biomass, the litter and the soil are storing the water, but they're always, the nutrients, but they're always in flux, which means that they won't necessarily stay in these particular areas. They're constantly being cycled between these different parts of the nutrient cycle. It would be nice to think that all of these nutrients stay within this system, but some come in and some come out. When it comes to nutrients coming into the system, this will often happen as water through rainfall. So rainfall can carry with it tiny dissolved chemicals that contain nitrogen and carbon, and they can add that nutrient to the soil. However, what can happen in extreme heavy rainfall, which living in the northwest we know all about, that can actually wash the nutrients away. it can carry away that leaf litter. I'm sure you will have all have seen leaves floating down a stream or down the side of a road carried by rainwater. So that could happen, and that actually removes the nutrients from that particular ecosystem. Another loss of nutrients is if somebody were to simply remove a large organism with a lot of biomass from the system. And we all know what it's called when we chop down trees and remove them: deforestation. So that will remove an awful lot. For example, in the Amazon, not only are they taking the trees away that are habitat, but they're also taking a lot of nutrients out of the system as well. There's another process that occurs, and that is referred to as leaching. So again, with that heavy rainfall, what can happen is some of these compounds that are dissolved into the soil, they can be dissolved into rainwater. And if the surface runoff is very, very heavy, they can get washed away as well. So that's leaching. So we've got surface runoff, leaching, and deforestation as ways we can remove nutrients from the system. I hope that's been very, very helpful to you. And if you have any questions, please contact your teacher and we'll help to clear up anything you might have misunderstood.